Welcome back to another episode of the Downsizing Roadmap podcast with your hosts, Jody Roscoe and Heather Fisher. We're talking about all things downsizing, from our own experiences with clients to guest experts. Let's make downsizing easier, one conversation at a time. Welcome to Downsizing Roadmap. This is Jody Roscoe.
I'm Heather Fisher.
And we're so excited you've joined us today. We are talking about the hidden pitfalls of downsizing and how to avoid them. And make sure you stay tuned all the way till the end to the biggest pitfall of them all.
Yeah, I think we've got 10 to talk about and then a bonus.
Yes.
That's not so much of a bonus.
Yes. And we feel this people all the time. We have people who are struggling to make the decision or just getting started and aren't sure where to go. And these are the things that they kind of struggle with right in the beginning or miss. And then when they get down the road, they realize they've missed some really serious parts of it.
Yeah, I think where our hurts really come from is that, there's lots of hard parts about downsizing and this process, but they can all be easier with a plan and a strategy. And I think we'll discover, these pitfalls come from not having that plan and strategy. And so the way to avoid it is to dive in and think about it and make that plan, reach out to resources like us and, help avoid those pitfalls, because we don't like to see people that have, hit all the pitfalls and they're in the midst of crisis, and it's hard all around for everybody, and we know it could be easier. We know even at that crisis point, we can make it easier, but it could have been enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that's really why we do this, is because we've seen so many people in crisis trying to make decisions, and we really, really want people to just start early. Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have to change your whole life right away, but if you just start putting things in place, then once you get where you do need to make a move or whatever, you're just ready. And so it's a whole different experience than if you're not ready at all. So
put the plan into action at that point instead of start building a plan at that point.
Yes.
Two different things.
Call us. We have a plan. We can help you with it.
Yeah. Should we dive into some of these pitfalls?
Yeah.
What's number one?
Rushing the process. Yeah. So that's usually people who have procrastinated it or put it off, or sometimes it's a surprise to them. Usually people, it's rushing the process is that they have had something happen and they have to do it. But even if that's not the case, I think sometimes people don't realize how long it could take or giving themselves ample time to do the things that they need to do. Yeah.
I think as we age, there are so many things that are not, end of the world things that can really derail your current living situation.
Yeah.
Falls.
Yeah.
The onset of some memory issues, sickness, one person being, having a health issue, all of those things where,
Mobility.
You still have long life ahead of you, but that momentary thing just derails things if you don't have some plans in place for what happens if this, or this. So I think rushing comes when you have waited until there's no time left but to rush.
Right. So give yourself 6 to 12 months to really, get from where I'm going to start to think about this and I'm actually moving. Give yourself 6 to 12 months, because you're going to need to declutter your home. You're going to need to make some choices about where you're going. You might have to make some financial decisions. And so you don't want to be making hasty decisions and rushing those decisions. You want to give yourself the time to make good decisions and go look at, several places and kind of do all the things that you need to do. So 6 to 12 months ahead of time, and make yourself a downsizing timeline with clear milestones about what you need to do.
When you're doing it that far out in advance too, you can time those milestones to time frames that are ideal for different reasons. Maybe you're doing some tours while you have other family, adult kids or whatever in town already for a visit or a holiday, they can go with you because you know that's happening then. You can do things when the weather is nicer outside, so you're not, slipping on ice or making things harder in those things. If you're in a climate like ours in the Midwest with winters that can be unpredictable. So I think when you give yourself enough time, you can plan things for when they make the most sense for ease, as well as making sure you have, planned for all of them.
Yeah, and 12 months ahead is not too early to contact a real estate agent.
Exactly.
We are actually happy to talk to you a year ahead of time, help you make that plan, and kind of check on you as you're going along, figure out if there's resources you need as you're going along. But we would actually probably rather talk to you then, and be able to help that plan go smoothly than, oh my gosh, I need to sell my house next week, which we can do that too if that needs to happen. But creating that plan makes it all just go more smoothly. So that's what we're talking about today, how to make it go more smoothly. Estate sale people also, so some of the people that you're going to need some time. So estate sale people could be booked in advance, come and talk to them. What's the value of my stuff? Is it worth having a sale? If I'm going and taking half this stuff, is it worth having a sale? So kind of getting some of those questions answered and knowing who you would, interviewing different places and knowing who you want to go with. So movers, those
and
kind of things.
Giving yourself a little extra built-in time to, process information that you gather and make decisions, not in an instant.
Yes.
So
step number 1, don't rush the process.
Yeah.
Number 2,
underestimating emotional attachments.
Yeah.
So we talk about this
A lot.
so much. And I think this is the big piece. If this wasn't the piece, then we would all, it would be more robotic. We would just move place to place, wherever. And it's the emotions that make moving hard for anyone or change hard. All of that is the emotional part.
And I think we talk a lot about, in our downsizing class, we talk about the first whole part is about your mindset and mindset around moving. And not just emotional attachments to your things, but emotional attachments to your life, right? Like to what your life is looking like right now. And often it's not working. And that's why downsizing is the reason, is a good choice. Your life isn't working for you the way it is. But since it's known, you kind of...
There's a comfort in that even when it's not working.
Yes. And so emotionally attaching to your future of what that could look like, kind of being dreamy about what that could be, what amazing things could we be doing, what could that look like, and really getting your mindset changed, I really think is step number 1 before you start any of the things. Because once you think, okay, I'm going to travel, or I'm going to be closer to my family, or what is it that you're going to do, then you can kind of take that next step of, okay, where am I going to go? Well, if your family is not close to you, then you need to be looking for places there, right? Or whatever that looks like. So I think it's very hard to get moving on a change when you don't know what's next.
Yeah.
Because that unknown is just looming over here going, well, I don't know what's next, so it can do it tomorrow. I can do it. It doesn't have to be right now because we don't have that plan.
Yeah.
It's the plan.
It's the plan, and it's the making the unknown known. When we had Amy on a few episodes ago talking about different senior living options, if that's part of the plan, there are so many anywhere you live that will welcome you with open arms for a tour, or to have a meal there, or to join a class there just to check it out. And I think what Amy said, that when it's the right place, you'll have that gut feeling like, okay, this feels like home. So giving yourself that feeling to know which ones, aren't the right fit and which ones are, you can be so much happier with knowing I'm excited to go there, and I loved it there, and the people were so nice, and whatever else checked those boxes for your situation.
And maybe it's a ranch home or a condo. Maybe it's not any of that. But that's the thought process. What is it going to be? And if it's a ranch home or condo, you have to give yourself some time to look and see what's going on in the market and what things you might like. So all of that, but
waiting for the right property to come in the, if you're wanting to stay close to where you currently live and, keep that little radius and all of that, you want to give yourself time.
And I think the less you know, the more overwhelming it feels. And so once you've detailed out things and I know what I'm looking for, then you can start looking for it, step by step, just walking down the road. But if you don't have that plan, it seems super, super overwhelming. Yeah. So number 2 is underestimating your emotional attachment. And some of it's to stuff, and it's all of it's a change of mindset, whether it's to the stuff or to your life. It's change of mindset around not keeping things because they make you feel guilty. And we have another podcast on that one. Listen to that one.
That emotional attachment around your routine and your comfort zone.
Yep. Number 3 is not knowing the true cost of downsizing. So again, it's all just a plan. What does that look like? What costs are going to be around it? The new community, are there going to be extra costs, HOA, like if you're going into a condo, what are those condo costs? If you're going into independent living place, what are those costs? If you're just going to get it, ranch home, what prices are they now? And what price is your current house? Honestly, you can't make decisions on that, what that is next, if you don't know what the price of your current house is and how that can relate, and you can move that money in a different way.
Yeah, it's definitely a full picture because, if the size of where you're living changes, even though you're likely keeping some of the things that you love and use, some of it just won't be sized correctly.
Correct. Furniture
for your
doesn't fit.
new place. You'll need maybe smaller couches, not a large sectional, or smaller dining table than what you have. So factoring in so that it's not an unexpected hurdle is definitely something you need to do to be prepared and not catch yourself short. And talking to resources if the financial part is a concern, like, can I do this? I need to, I might want to, but I'm not sure. Having that plan in place around what it will actually cost you can give you that peace of mind to move forward.
And we have some great resources at downsizingroadmap.com if that's something that you want to talk about. But so number 3 is not knowing the true cost. So that's just kind of researching, seeing where you're going to live, what that's going to look like, what those costs are of what's next. Number 4.
Number 4, keeping too much stuff. I think this one hits the nail on the head. This is the mistake. I mean, we've seen more than one client that downsizing becomes something that feels negative around them because they kept too much and they really aren't living in a home at their next spot. They're living amongst boxes or furniture that is too big for the space or too much. So we can't say enough to really make those decisions because it's freeing if you're in a nice, beautiful new space when you can move around it and just not have to be shuffling things and shifting things and not feeling like I made a mistake. And really the pitfall that tripped you up there was taking too much, not the place itself.
Yeah, we've definitely seen that, unfortunately, over and over. With 300,000 items in the average American home, when you start packing those into boxes, it takes a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
And so I think people underestimate what that looks like, and they think they can take all of their things, more than they actually can, and really more than they need. That 80-20 rule, you really only use 20% of the stuff in your house. So you don't need to take all of it with you, no matter where you're going. And it's kind of a nice, fresh start if you kind of don't. But we have definitely seen people who are in places where they can barely walk through, and it makes me so sad. Like, it's just time to let
tables piled with stuff. And
Yeah.
if that feels overwhelming and it's overwhelming to think, well, I don't know what I'm going to need, there are many great companies and resources that do that for, as part of the process, that can be part of that dream team for you, that can do, just from helping you go through and make some decisions on the front end, and you or family are kind of doing the homework and putting it into action, to companies that will do everything start to finish. You kind of give them some guidance, and then they, you walk into your next place and it's set up and decorated and ready to go. And so along that spectrum of what you can use to help, there are so many services that can handle different pieces of that. But in the end, you want to end up in your next home, not a storage unit, not just burdened, because if you weren't able to get yourself to that point without some help up to that, then it's not going to change. Those boxes will be a barrier for quite a while, and we just don't want to see that.
Yeah, just be realistic about what you actually need. If there's one of you or two of you, then you don't need a place setting for 12 at the next place. You can just kind of downsize all the things. Everything. Kitchen things can be less.
Yeah.
Clothing can be less. All of it can just be, a little bit less.
Yeah, that's the word, less, and then it brings you more.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah, the joy, your life feels so much freer. So you think it's the stuff that's important, but it's really the time and the feeling of being free from the stuff. Stuff can be heavy, like I say.
Yeah, and it gives you that open feeling to, invite the new neighbors in, or, go join something, go to a club, go do something, because you're not thinking about the work needed at your new space.
Yeah, follow that 1 year rule. If you haven't used it for a year, you probably aren't going to use it again.
Yeah.
Measure, in the new house, you can measure some of the spaces and make sure your furniture is going to fit before you move it over there and realize that it doesn't. Digitize all those papers or shred most of them. You probably don't need them.
Yes. Listen to our episodes on paper and get some advice there for sure.
Yes.
What's pitfall number 5, Jody?
Pitfall number 5 is not planning for future needs. So, be careful when you're planning your next home. Is it going to be good for mobility in the future? Are you overlooking some of the things? Does it have just this beautiful giant garden that you are not going to want to take care of 5 years from now? What is it looking into the future? What kind of things might you need?
What will serve you best down the road, for sure. I think we've seen that where, people will go and just buy another 2-story, and it's smaller, and, be looking for those first floor masters, or, do we have some wider doorways if we need them? And, how could this work? Because if you're going to all the trouble to do this once, you probably don't want to do it again.
Yeah, unless it's a 2-step process. Some people do a 2-step process where they have their bigger house, then they go to like a smaller ranch or condo, and then maybe at some point they go to, an independent living place. Maybe not. It just depends on what that life looks like. But like picking a remote location where it's harder to have, get here, to shopping or, get to places, picking more land than you might want in the future, those kind of things. So single level living as you progress in years is usually better. Single level living, everything on one.
Yeah, and if you have those family members that are, helpful resources, being somewhere relatively close so that more frequent check-ins or help or whatever you might need are easier when it's closer by. You get that much more family interaction.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is awesome.
So what's number 6?
Pitfall number 6, forgetting to update legal and financial documents.
Oh gosh. Okay, so we've seen this with kind of catastrophic results, to be honest. So up front, I would say look into what does your deed look like? Is there a survivorship deed? Like, really listen to our podcast
Anne gave us some really great info on that.
On what your deed how it needs to be. If something should unexpectedly happen, make sure your paperwork's all together.
Yeah. having making sure that you have your powers of attorney, and both healthcare and financial powers of attorney. They're different. There's different documents.
Yeah.
And just saying, I have a power of attorney, if you haven't read it in years or ever, or, you haven't reviewed it, every power of attorney can give it's document specific as to what each one is giving someone else the rights to do on your behalf. So they are not one and the same, that everything is taken care of. So think through your situation, that the assets you have, the where you live currently, all of those things, and make sure that it's just in line with your wishes, and that you've updated it currently. Family around you changes, people get married, divorced, someone else passes away. You can make sure that you have the right people in a line that work, so that you can be helped if you need to for all of those things.
And I think that's the kind of stuff we don't really think about, and we do it once. Maybe if we've done it at all, we do it once and then we kind of put it away. And when my mom passed away, it took me quite a while to realize that she was who the kids were going to go to if we passed away. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, like we need to change those things. And that's really sometimes not your first thought, oh, hey, I need to go change my will. But that's something that just to be updated every few years, or definitely when something changes in your family. So professionals that could help you with that,
professionals that can look at your particular situation and give you the best path for protecting your assets, or how best. There's lots of information around trusts and things like that.
Go see an estate planner.
That you have all of that in order, so that you just have that peace of mind that what you want to have happen. I think maybe it was with your mom, but or maybe a client, but there's other things that I know when I was telling my mom about, she didn't realize, but like the title of your car, you can designate who gets your car if something happens to you without that being another obstacle, correct? And
yes.
Your bank accounts,
yes.
Transferring those
beneficiaries.
on the beneficiaries without having to wait on courts and probate and all of that. So, we're not the experts on that, but I think what we're experts on is telling you, go make a plan, talk to the experts.
And for the house, joint survivorship deed, didn't really come into play until the 80s, I think Ann said, or something like that. 70s or 80s. And so if you've owned your house for 40 years, it may not be like that. And we're finding times when it is not like that. And so that means if one person passes away, it doesn't automatically go to their spouse. So you want to get that kind of stuff checked on. And even if you have a transfer on death for your property, that has to be recorded in the county, so you can't do that super fast if somebody if it's last minute. So get those things in order up front. And then so estate planner, estate lawyer, financial planner, talk to some of those professionals. And then as you move, remember, notify your banks, notify everybody of your new address.
Change of address, yeah, for sure.
Yep. So number 7.
Not researching the new community.
So we have a soapbox we stand on this one.
Yes.
Mostly because we really in relation to rehab, if you need to go to rehab, if you fall or if something happens to you, or even if you have surgery and you need to go to rehab, the hospital is going to say, hey, you're looking great today. We're excited. We're going to be able to get you out of here. We're going to get you out of here in an hour. Here's a list of rehab places. Where do you want to go? And it's kind of wait, I don't know. I haven't looked at any of these. It's just a list of places. I don't have any idea. So in the same vein of that, as you're going and looking at new communities, if you're looking at independent living communities, look at rehab places while you're at it. And if you're looking at new homes, talk to a real estate agent and kind of be specific about what you're looking for. But
I think that goes back to steps 1 and 2 of kind of our downsizing roadmap, number 1, what are you hoping to find in the community? Because there are a lot that are beautiful and present well, but we also know the scope of amenities or social or care they're just so different. So being beautiful isn't enough, but starting at step 1 and being dreamy about what you want most. Do you want somewhere that has an indoor pool? Do you want somewhere that has a strong social life? Do you have medical needs that are special to be met? Having that list of what you're looking for can help you from being just overwhelmed by the glossy brochures they give you and the pretty that you see when you walk in. It will give you, those dreams will give you specific questions to ask. And so as you're touring them, do that. And then the strategy part of our roadmap, you've already talked to the financial planners and all of that. Have that baseline of what your financial picture looks like and whether each community fits that so that it will work for you. So.
If you're looking for a community, some of them are extremely social. I've seen ones that have like art rooms and woodworking rooms and, all kinds of physical fitness, stuff and indoor pools and outdoor pools. And, I've seen all of that. And then there's ones that don't have any of that stuff. And so that's okay. What kind of personality are you? Or if you're going to move into a condo complex, same thing. Do you need one with a pool? Or are you good without that? Why pay for that in your condo fees if that's not something you're looking for? Or a single family home, what kind of neighborhood do you want that to be like? Are you going to be out walking? Do you need sidewalks? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. And location.
Yes, and the location for sure. So that was number 7, not researching the new community. So start doing some researching on what you want that to look like.
Okay, pitfall number 8.
Trying to sell everything instead of donating it.
Yes. Another one that we talk about frequently. Unfortunately, selling can be, on your own, can be a big project because it's like item
tedious.
By item. What
Thousands
am I going
of
to sell it
items.
for? What will I accept if I don't get this offer? How am I getting it to you talk about decision fatigue. There are a lot of decisions if you are selling things item by item. I have to say most people would be pretty disappointed in the dollar per hour. If you got to the end of that path and you had sold a significant amount of your things item per item, yes, there would be some monetary value that you received, but would that equal the amount of time and effort and work? And I think people have that a little askew on what their expectations of that process are.
Yeah, I think that most people just overvalue most of their things. And some things, especially collectible things, were expensive when they bought them, but unfortunately haven't really held their price. Not everything. If you have Lionel trains and, certain things that they will still hold their value. But a lot of things that were collectible at one time there's not really a market for them now. So overvaluing that. Furniture itself doesn't really usually carry a
monetary return.
Again, there's always exceptions to that, but overall, most of the furniture that we see does not have a huge value to it. So, you can do yard sales and garage sales, and it just takes a lot of time. So if you have a lot of time and you love that, then okay, do that. But if you don't, then it may be a better plan to either have one big estate sale or maybe even not sell it at all. Maybe find people who want it. I don't know if you've been on the Facebook pages where it's like buy nothing or, get giving. I think ours is giving with gratitude or something. But I love those because you put out, it's still item by item, so it's still tedious. And then if you need to deal with everything all at once, that's not the way. But if you're kind of going through things item by item and you're just ready to give them to somebody who's really going to want them, I think that's a fun way because you take a picture of it, you put it out there, it's free. You're going to put it out on your front porch, and somebody from the neighborhood, they're very local, very, very specifically local, and they're going to come and get it. And I had a whole box of Halloween stuff that I hadn't used for the kids because they'd kind of grown out of it. And so I put it on that site, and a lady came and got it. And then she sent me pictures like 4 hours later that her kids had been playing with the stuff in that box all day and that they loved it so much. And it had just been sitting in my basement. And so that was so gratifying just to be like, that's so cool. Somebody's using it and loving it. And so sometimes that is better joy than selling it for the few dollars that you would have gotten.
Yeah, we had to replace our dryer, so we had we ended up getting a new washer dryer set. So broken dryer, discarded, but had a working washer. And my husband and I thought, no problem, we can sell this. And
nope,
it's so painful.
It is so painful.
It's like half a day of a million messages when you post it, and then they don't show up. They, haggle before they've even seen it. They come and say, no, thank you. Like, it was just like, this is why I don't do this all the time. So really think about whether you want to do that.
And if you have things that genuinely have value, then we definitely sell that. But
reach out to us, or we can get you in touch with estate sale people that do that. I thought that the tip in Keep the Memories, Lose the Stuff was a great way. If you're just not sure, you're like, I hear what you're saying, Heather and Jody, but I feel like my stuff has value. I loved his little spreadsheet. Yeah. And it probably, you could probably get one of your, adult family members to kind of help you, but maybe the decision making comes after an afternoon of looking online at a couple comparables to the key items that are, making you think, oh, I want to sell everything, and really look at what that similar item has sold for recently.
Right. Yeah. He was saying, go to eBay or someplace like that and research that item, and if find 5 of them, and if they're all selling for $10,
yours is not selling for $100.
Yeah,
that's
it is what it is.
It. I mean, that's not someone.
Even if you bought it for $200 or whatever.
Yeah, the market is not anyone randomly picking something to frustrate you. It is what it is. Yeah. We see that in houses all the time, but it's the same with your stuff. People aren't going to buy yours for double, triple, quadruple the price if they can find 10 others for a lower price.
Yes. All right, number 9.
Ignoring the emotional needs of family members.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes your family members have really strong ideas about your life.
We say from experience, right?
Yeah. So sometimes, adult kids get upset about selling the family home.
Yeah.
And even if it's the right thing for you to do, it sometimes is upsetting.
Yeah.
And you kind of need to have a family conversation, talk to them early. Tell them why. Tell them what your dreamy looks like. Here's what I want, my life to look like. So you have to do that first step of the dreamy, to get there. But tell them what that looks like, and involve them earlier in the process instead of just kind of, hey, we're putting the house up for sale tomorrow.
Yeah, back to that. Starting with the dreamy. Once you have that and you've articulated it to yourself and you've locked in on it and you've shared that with the people around you helping you, there's so many people, including your adult children, that can help you come up with the strategy that fits that. So if they know why you want to go somewhere or why you want to sell and move, they can join your team and help you find that or suggest something you might not know about or, so many ways. But if that dream is not articulated or you haven't taken the time to think about it, then there's a lot of confusion and questions and questioning of the strategy.
Yeah, why are you doing this, Mom and Dad? Or, what's going on? And if you don't know the answer, then they fill it in kind of with their own answer or their own feelings about what's going on. And
I think it goes both ways too, between parents and their adult children, that I think parents don't like to maybe feel like they're burdening their adult kids with how things have changed. And so you get a lot of, we're fine, everything's fine. You get a lot of that, but you might be feeling like, well, things are harder, but you're saying the words, we're fine, everything's fine. And I think, adult kids on the flip side might see that things aren't quite as fine. And because those conversations aren't always had or talked about and a plan made, it's hard for the parents to hear, maybe it's time to make some decisions. And so the more open everybody is with a plan early on of what it looks like long term, what your hopes and dreams are for that, the easier it is to just move down that path and not have the pitfall of everybody's emotions right at the time when everyone needs to rally together.
yeah. And the same thing with the stuff. If their family, several family members want the same thing, you're just going to have to figure out what that looks like. So it's your stuff, it's your choices to make, and they're going to have to deal with it. So writing down who gets what, if there are things that they really want, versus, we get a lot of times you want to give things that they don't want, but sometimes there are things they do want, and then people, we've seen people.
A lot of emotions.
Yeah.
That sometimes goes a little bit the wrong way in the moment.
And then give them, if they do want something, give them a deadline to pick it up.
Yes.
It's time for it has to go out.
Yes. No matter where you're living, your own house shouldn't be a storage unit for everybody's. I mean, sometimes that's helpful, and if it works, it does. But at some point, if that doesn't work for you anymore, it's okay to say, time to come get this.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are on number 10, pitfall number 10, moving without a post-downsizing plan. I love this because most people think, whew, I'm done.
Yeah.
But then maybe it doesn't, feel quite right because everything changed and you're like, I'm done. So I think there's some tips in there for having a plan.
Yeah, I think you can feel lost in your bigger home, without your bigger home, right? It was what you knew, and moving was the right choice, but that getting settled into the next thing, so you might feel a little bit lost.
In your routine,
Yeah, in your routine of whatever you were taking care of, even if you didn't want to be taking care of it.
Yeah.
There's time, which you wanted, but what are we going to do with that time? Create new hobbies, join community groups. My Nana joined a book club. She went to docent at a museum. There's just all kinds of things that you can fill your time with, whether that's helping others or being with your family or creating new friends, creating new hobbies. Like, what is it that you're going to do with that time? Sometimes people struggle to find new social connections in a different community, especially if you've moved somewhere else to be by your kids. So you just have to get yourself involved, give yourself that flexibility and that freedom to know that you'll settle into a new routine.
Yeah, I think, we talk about this, it is definitely a phase in life, but it's not dissimilar from phases we've all already gone through. And I think about, our daughters, freshmen we each have a freshman in college, and, it's that whole this is exactly what I wanted. This is where I wanted to go. It's amazing. It's exciting. I'm independent. I have all this. But then there's still that upset to the routine.
Yeah.
They don't have, all the same options at all times of the day as they do at home, and watching them adjust, and then we expect that won't happen to us later in life, and it's the same. So I think plugging into the social and getting to know the people around you is important, but also just building your routine for yourself around your new space, keeping to just a little bit of I have coffee at this time, or I take a walk around the block, every day in the evening, or building in those little benchmark routine markers, social or not, because some people aren't looking for that full social, but they can still get lost, with just everything being different.
Yes.
So start making your new experience have a routine.
Yes.
I think.
Yes. And if you found you've got super aggressive and downsized too much, don't be afraid to readjust. We have had clients that have done that. They went from a really big house. They went to a little, 2-bedroom condo, and then they called me a year later, and they're like, Jody, no. We're on top of each other. We don't have quite enough space. And so we sold that, and we went to a little bit bigger house. Definitely not as big as the
original.
one. Yeah, original house. And they love the new one. And so sometimes we don't make it, but don't feel like, oh my gosh, now I've done this is it for life. We can always readjust and re-strategize a little bit. So don't be afraid about that.
Yeah.
All right. What's our number 11?
Okay. Bonus pitfall. It's not a bonus if it's a pitfall, right? That
Right.
doesn't make sense.
Right. But our actually biggest one that we think it is.
Yeah. The biggest pitfall is that you have thought about downsizing, and you're listening to this, you're looking into other things, and you're hearing, here's pitfalls, here is solutions, here's tips, and then you just say, oh, that sounds like a lot. Let me think about that tomorrow. So procrastination is the biggest pitfall.
Doing nothing.
Doing nothing.
Which is still doing something. It's just pushing it down the road. But doing nothing is, I think, the number one thing that we see of mistakes that are made. Like, if you feel like you are ready to start thinking about this, then you know in your heart that this is what you need to be doing.
Yeah.
And so just try to not kick that can down the road every day because it feels overwhelming.
There's comfort in a strategy, and there's comfort in information. So I think we can't say it enough, and we'll say it 1,000 more times, but just start thinking about it and gathering information and making plans ahead of time, and then you will feel comfortable to make a move and put that plan into action when that time is right for your specific situation. But if you don't make that plan, you will walk through, life with that feeling of I should. And then when life tells you now's the time, you will do all the same pitfalls through crisis mode, which makes them bigger
And harder.
and harder.
Yeah, which we don't want to see.
No.
Let's make life easier on ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I hope we can continue to help with that. If there's any resources that you need, that you're listening and you want to know more about, we've got a lot of information on our website, downsizingroadmap.com, and you can contact us through there. We would love to just, hear your feedback, whether you liked something that you heard, or if there are questions we can answer, or any resource we can connect you with, or our expertise in real estate, we can help you with that.
So don't keep getting ready to get ready. Let's start.
Get ready.
Get ready and start down the road.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Thank you guys for joining us. We will talk to you next time.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us on the Downsizing Roadmap podcast. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who might need a little downsizing inspiration. Have questions or ideas for future episodes? Reach out to us on our website, www.downsizingroadmap.com. Until next time, let's keep simplifying and moving forward.